Kerchoo. Kerchoo. It feels good to be home, Club Cult. Good evening. Why does it keep saying emotes only over here still? It's off. There we go. Pin the pinned, incoming Serena spam. Then we unpack a little and do zoo stuff. Zoo tings. Welcome to Stream the Dreams Project, everybody. Welcome. Welcome. Ah, everything is where it goes. Beautiful. Marvelous, miraculous, and beautiful. Why? Between like 9 and 10 p.m. is like prime email spam time. Like not actually spam, just like there's a deal, there's this, there's that, whatever. Don't look at my phone in that time span, it just floods. It's a bit ridiculous. A bit ridiculous, I do declare. Right, there's way too much stream stuff in my purse right now. I need chapstick. My mantra this evening. Hello, voice. Goodbye, voice. Has been delightful. Positively delightful. And we got easy access coffee. So prepared. Tripod number 1. Is number 2 in the kitchen? Or is it still on my porch? I think it's in the kitchen. Don't need that. All this for the moment. Spare cord. I always think I need 3 times the stuff that I need. Got an extra one of these. With a clip-on thing, in case I decided that was a good choice. I'm nothing if not prepared. Tigra did so good today. I'm very proud of him. He was just an eepy boy while we were away. Got a granola bar up here. That is a needed thing at some point. I was gonna get a hot pretzel. I forgot sustenance. Forgot all about it. Oops. Oops. Oops a days. This doesn't go out here anyway. Over. Over yonder. Boy, you look suspicious. It looks like he's plotting something. I don't know what, but something. It's a very plotting vibe. Trying to tell me you need more food in your bowl? There is still food in your bowl, Goofy. You just pulled it all sideways. Or there's food all over the floor. You just made a mess of it. That's all. You just made a mess of it. That's all. Goose. No free butts. No free butts. No. goofy goober. Oh, I love you. Are you gonna rub my back? Oh my god, you're the best. Thank you. Thank you. That feels so good. Thank you. Oh, you're such a good boy. You're such a good boy. Oh, thank you. Boyer gives the best back rubs. 11 out of 10. Phenomenal. He's the best boy. The boy is the best boy. Creak. You gonna curl up? Be a little curly noodle. Snuggle in. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it, Mr. Bean. You're such a good boy. You want brush too? Okay. Oh, that's the good stuff. Okay. I didn't expect him to like super love that so much. Oh. That's the good spots. This doesn't really do anything for like actually brushing you, but I bet it does feel good. Why do you love this so much? You're gonna fall over. You're gonna roll backwards. I don't have you fully supported, sir. Why does he like this? Why do you love this so much? Oi. Why? Boop. Use some backwards brushes. Give you some volume to your hair. So you move in the direction I brush in. If I brush back, he lolls back. If I brush forward, he comes forward. We found the control button. He's looking at me like, oh no, you know things now, Mom. I know everything, don't you know? Show happies. Aw, kisses. What a sweet boy. You're a sweet guy. Yes, you are. You're a very sweet guy. You are soaking up the love, sir. Oh my goodness. You are loving the lovin's. You're a very silly boy. My little raccoon. Our go cam going to whatever extent. You don't like matcha mouth? Sorry. Actually, good call. Mom does need to drink water. I'm on like my 5th win now, but I was so tired earlier. I was just chugging caffeine. It's 4 minutes to meds time. That way we don't forget. Big stretch. Big stretch. And that's alright. I like this song. I just taking the sticker off coffee. Or off tea. The tea. Little bubbalooski. Everything's set up to go see Miss Peebs. Little Peebee. So it's her first big afternoon alone too. Aw, poor little bean. Tank test. Oh, it's such a tiny tank. Tiny tank. I would kill or die to see Tank as a baby. I bet he was the cutest little kitten there ever was. I bet $1 million for ya. We're going to see Miss Peeps. Oh, so cozy. It's very much in his mom don't move era. Bellies. You're so cute. You're so cute. Don't roly-poly ovary. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Mr. Bean. You're a little lump of potatoes and I love you. I missed you so big. I did. I missed you. We gonna snuggle tonight? Yes. We are going to snuggle tonight. No, baby boy. I am a sucker for you. Maybe I'm not way off that he doesn't like when I leave music on in here. When I leave the room. The song just changed and he kind of like airplaned his ears back about it. Oh, I love you too. I love you too. Is this not your jam? Alright, baby Boobaloo. We gotta keep Miss Peeps on schedule too. Yes, we do. Come here. Oh, now you're going to go to crazy mode. Berserk mode. The line between love time and playtime is very thin. Come on, son. No psycho mode. No psycho mode. Thank you. I love you. Can't wait for his little shaved spot to grow back. It looks so funny, I feel bad. Do Gunther and Zeke make fun of you? Maybe. Eat the food that you spilled on the floor, please. That would be good choices. It would be. Then I don't have to clean up the mess. You can contribute to society, Voya. I have faith in you. You can be a good citizen. Merp. And swap us over. There we go. Perfect. I got update 4. Oh, snap. Where are my markers? Creek chair. Where you are in the world right now. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you.
Are at 3 out of 13 for our next TNR goal. These are awesome. I have horrible handwriting tonight. I know my handwriting gets worse as the day goes on, but Jesus.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's not good.
Not good.
For my
My
second
second
matcha,
matcha.
we
We
are
are
on
on
0.
0. That happened last night. Am I just hitting the button? That's possible. Anything is possible in Serenaville. Some cult land. Boy, girl, we're gonna come in and sneak on you in a minute. And Pippi, you were so adventurous today. I'm so proud of you. You did so good. You did so good. Everyone loved you. You're famous. He has more fans than I do. That's how it should be. Hello, baby peeps. Hello, little monkey mama. How are you doing on this fine Caturday evening? I missed you, sissy. I missed you so big. Come here. Come here. I missed you so big. Missed you. She's so cute. I missed you. I was out in the big world. No baby speaks. She's so rumbly. We just put on chopstick. I had matcha. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Were you watching your Curious George? While I was looking at the cars. Yes. You're a good girl. I missed you so much, you little stinker. I'm gonna grab her Mlecco and a probiotic. I don't know what mission you're on here. Says it must mark my territory. The tripod is mine now. Okay, peeps. If you say so.
Now it's time to pick the winner of our contest. The winner is GP3. What? Here's the winner. George won. Aha! That's up, man. He's a monkey.
Did you just meow or was that Curious George? Come on.
At our next children's
Ah, there's something in my eye. It does not feel good.
Now, welcome. George, you know what the conductor does, right? Maybe I can explain it to you so you can do it without falling down. There's a lot of counting in music, such as counting the tempo, the speed of the music. The conductor helps keep the tempo of the music with a little stick called a baton. I can count the tempo like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. This is 4.
It was a TV floof. You got me. You got me. Oh my goodness. You got me. You silly goober.
This is called 3, 4 times.
Hold on.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Little stinker.
You see, George. Now let's try it again. 1, 1.
Hold on, tiny biscuit. Ready? Yum yum. Oh, that's the good stuff. Get your milk and your probiotics. You can grow up big and strong. I don't know about the big part. You're kind of just a little guy. But you gotta get strong. 2. Good job. 3. Bravo, my Shelly. 4. 2 more. I'll drink the whole cup. This really is like her favorite thing in the world. She's so weird. You can have 1 more. Do you not want 1 more? You're such a cat. You're proving me wrong. Proving the point. I just said it's her favorite thing in the world. And she's like, oh, I'm done. You're such a cat. How do you be such a cat? You got the rest? Oh, did you drink it too fast? Okay, get yourself all sorted out and then you can decide. All better? All better? Aw. You're so cute. I'm gonna chew on my toes. Do you want the rest? Try and have it over the cup so it doesn't make a mess. There you go. PB is people too. Oops, sorry. It went fast. This is an awkward angle. Okay, it counts. Good job, sis. She's very proud of herself. Good job, sissy girl. Bravo. Bravo. You're gonna push the door. Goober. Little goober. Little goober. Check your food and wall. Get your blanket all sorted back out. Lord, this light doesn't like me. Tripods in general just do not like me. Want some more crunchies? He's being so cute. Too far. Too far. She's on her merry little way anyway. You did good crunchies today. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You did good. You did good. You were so brave today. It was the longest I think you've been home alone. You were a very brave little lady. A big proud. A big proud. Yes. So stinking darling. You're gonna chew on my toes? I'm chewing my peats? My peats, my beans? Is that so, peeps? See, this is fine. This is my new favorite pastime. I found another tooth. So it definitely wasn't a fluke with the other one. She is for sure teething. I keep finding them in the blanket. I'm looking for more.
That's a great one.
It's just a fuzz. It's it had with a tooth. Actually, what is that? No, it's a fuzz. It's such a goofy little floofy. Goofy little floofy. Back to the Pete's. Oh my goodness. Peebs. You and Pete's. This is becoming a fixation. This is why we buy you teething toys. But you're chewing my toes way too hard.
Sushi Lala. You're wild. You're wild. What is it about you and toes? You're weird. Don't chew the meat of my feet, you weirdo. Toes are enough. Oh my goodness. Mama bear. Mama bear. Mama bear. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Arr. You have the most perfect little tiger stripes. You really do. You. Ow! Arr. Oh my god, she's getting feisty about it.
George wondered why his new friends ran away when they heard his kids.
She made like rattlesnake noises with her mouth. I don't know what that was. Did you lose a tooth in that moment? I'm obsessed with looking for teeth now. It's just so rare that you find them. Now I found two from her. Let's see, which one was the first one? Which one was today's? Hello. I think this one was the first one. This is the one she lost sometime in the last 24 hours. I think that one's a little baby canine. I didn't actually look in her mouth to see which one yet, and she's feisty right now, so I don't think that's gonna happen at this moment. Hi. Are you gonna go climbing? You're so silly. Little biscuit buttercup brown. Come here. What are you doing? Peekaboo. Peekaboo. Oh, that actually works on you? Hi. Aw, mamas. Arr. You're so silly. What you doing under there? Your pupils are so big. I feel like if I play peekaboo with you like this, you're in tac-tac my face, and that's a dangerous game. It's a very dangerous game. Oh, the baby girl. Oh, the baby girl. Arr, arr, arr. Arr, arr, arr. Arr, arr, arr. Why are you being so feisty? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You're feisty, baby. There's all that in a bag of potato chips tonight. Goodness golly. Peekaboo.
George felt it was only fair to warn the gophers.
Peekaboo. Oh, she makes me with Baby Monster so much. Baby Monster always did peekaboos. He would go up on like the love seat sofa and then go behind the throw pillows and pop his little head out and go crazy mode and then circle around and do the same thing almost like she does. He's so sweet and cute. He's so sweet and cute. I do doot. I do doot. I do doot. I do doot. Doot doot doot. Doot doot doot. She's unhinged. You're wild. You know, I used to be wild. House cat now. You're a good sweet girl. You're a good sweet girl.
Country house was a great place for a muddle. Though sometimes
What you doing, wildly?
It's the house rules.
Is that another one?
We don't
Oh no.
draw on the walls. House rules.
It's another one! Another baby tooth. I am the tooth fairy. Holy shit. Peeps. I think she might have just lost this one. It feels kind of wet.
George, what did we say about buttering your corn with your feet?
Wow. No way!
Makes sense. Some seem like a complete waste of feet.
I feel like I'm hitting future me's nostalgia lottery. I am impressed.
House rules.
you. It's a bless you. Don't sneeze. That makes me anxious. Is that another one? No, that's a fluke. You never know. Is that another one? No, it's a fluke. There's a lot of flukes. We need to speak, girlfriend. Yeah, clean tomorrow. We didn't get much done this past Wednesday. And today was busy. What you doing, Wild? I think she didn't pop out the other side. There's a ball rolling. It's a telltale sign of a peewee. They're putting your acorn back. That's all. You smushed it up. Come here, lady man.
George could move the tree and stay dry.
Come here, lady man.
House.
He's like, no, I'm stubborn. I solo play now. Okay. Start our own little mission in life now. Go get it. Go get it. Oh, she does as she please.
The perfect branch. Chose his material.
She does as she pleases. Let's go love on Tigra. And then figure out what we're doing tonight. I'm a tired girl. Maybe play some games for a little bit. Slept like 3.5 hours this morning. That's what I'm running on. It's a vibe. Let's go with that. It's an existence. But to be fair, 3 hours is better than none. It's a better than none. Hello, baby boy. Hello. We missed you, son. We missed you, son. Did you have a good day today? You spent the day in your crate, which I know was not great. It was not your favorite, but you were a good boy. You proved to me that you are weird. 100% of a good boy. Let's just bring Goku down. Where? You gotta stop looking for Petey. Come on. Thank you. You're so silly. You're so silly. Oh, I missed you. Oh, I missed you. Do you just not care that I'm home? Come here. Tigra, come here and sit with me. Come here. I missed you. I missed you. I missed you. I missed you. Oh, roly poly oly. Okay. I missed you very much. I missed you. I did. I did. Oh, that was gross. But I missed you. Ugh. Hi. Hi. Are you a kitty cat? I think you're a kitty cat. I think you're secretly a kitty cat. That's why you're so interested in kitty cats. You say, I think those are my people. I think those are my people. Oh, I gotta show them the signs I got. I know Pippi's already seen them, but we gotta show Tigra. You gotta show him. I was just like half musing when I looked for Boxer Boulevard, but sure enough, it was there. Now for Pippi, I don't know where I'm gonna put these up, but somewhere. Cocker Spaniel Circle. And Boxer Boulevard. Usually every year I'll get something from, what's it called? Ringo! I know, I'm sorry. I didn't look for Great Dane Avenue. I apologize. I'm a jerk. I did not consider it. They're also $18 each, so like, no. Boop. Boop. It's a sign. That's where we were today. Now I don't remember what I was saying. It's a baby bee. It's a baby bee. I was just joking when I was looking for this one, though. It makes me happy. It makes me happy. I don't know where they're gonna go up, but somewhere. Somewhere. I don't even know if you're a boxer, but you look like a boxer to me. Come here. Look at your street sign. Tigra. Come here. Good boy. His house recall is like average. His yard recall is fantastic. It's decent-ish still outside. So I was playing with them a bunch because they wanted to get their energies out when I got home. We were doing playtimes. Yes. Yes, we were. Baby, you're tired. You're getting like your second wind, though. You can take your sweater off. You don't have to keep it on forever. No, you don't. No, you don't. I just didn't want you to be overly chilly today. Although it was pretty warm in there. I was comfortable in short sleeves, and usually I keep a sweater on. There's so many people. Like, it was so much more populated. But I guess, I don't know, usually we're arriving about 2 hours earlier and leaving about 2 hours earlier. So different layout of humans. Upstairs was so filled. Last year, it wasn't very, like, populated. There really wasn't anything good, but there really wasn't much at all, which was kind of weird. I wonder if they made discount spots for the Tuner Galleria or something this year, because it was packed. It was packed. Or two, it was brought to my attention that, like, we had a warmer winter, like it was super cold and snowy for spurts, but not like continuous. So most people's cars probably didn't get put into storage. Oh, do you feel so good and happy with your sweater off? Yes. Haha. It's a cute little shake. It's a cute little shake. Tigra. Hi. Thank you. You don't need to be on the lookout for Phoebe. No, I'm gonna call you Jelly. You're jealous. Come here. Thank you. So cute though. All I have to do is like tap him on the shoulder. Excuse me, sir. And then the attention returns. Ty. Tiger. Come here. Come here. Come here. You actually respond to claps. I've never had a dog that responds to claps. Come here, son. You don't need to have your head all up in her business. No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh, the rubbins. The lovin's. The rubbins. The lovin's. Sonny boy. You got your toy? OMG. 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 No. Sweet boy. I missed you. You did so good today. I'm so proud of you. He kind of understands tug of war. He's just so gentle. You're such a good dog. Like, you just are. Oh. Yeah, little Mr. Kong squid toy says get your eyes off of Petey. You're making Ringo jealous. You're making him jealous. But he played out in the yard with his giant tennis ball, which you don't care about, so I don't think you're jealous, but close enough. Arr. Tigra. Come here. Come here. Come here. You don't need to stare that way. Baby son. Ty. Tigra. Come here. Come here, stubborn. Don't just lick your leg. Come here. Come on, son. Come on. See, but I'm curious. I know, but we're not ready for you to be curious. Look. You gotta look, see. You didn't even look. We threw the toy. You gotta turn around. You gotta turn around. You can't fixate. It's illegal. Oh, I still don't have batteries in Dreamo. I can put TV on for you in a few moments. Because I have to use my... Well, I think I can do quick click buttons. Ringo, you're fine. You're being a baby. It's just a baby. It's just a baby. Yo, gabba, gabba.
affection, the affections. Oh, I like the music on for you. Or is that Yo Gabba Gabba? It's something. It's the music. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, Mr. Bean. My apologies. My apologies. Mr. Bean, you're so cute and silly. You flip us over. Perfect. Oh, I didn't turn on the PlayStation before OBS. Hopefully it'll sync up okay. Give it a try. And heat up the rest of my tea. Actually, I'm gonna put it in the fridge. Have the rest of it tomorrow and heat up some of my coffee. It'll be right back. If I feel kills all over, you mean a mess. Mr. Boy. Little Bubbaloo. See what the PlayStation wants to do. Please don't be rude. No. The answer to that is no. How do I do this to where I can hear it? There. Bubba. Lay down. I think Tiger's feeling a little fussy. from being abandoned today. AKA at home. What was it, the card show? Poor Boba. He keeps being fussy. I'll end stream early, but otherwise I want to give him a chance to relax and I want to play some games. Before I want to eat some foods. What's my hair doing? Dun, 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 dun. Swap our categories around. It was salvageable. We survived. Creaky. Creaky, creaky. No, I don't want to update things. I just want to change my category. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. Doom, 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 doom. Put this over here. Blurp. Turn that way down. Use granola bar o'clock. I don't think that's him fussing. It's Ringo chewing a bone. Bethesda. Id. Id the best game ever. I am liking this one. After trying Eternal first, just feels like Eternal on easy mode, which is not easy, but it's much less hard than Eternal. I'll take it. I suppose so. It'll probably give us a break for a little bit, just because there was that really hard creature before bed last night. Hello, Gunther. Come here. Hop on up. You can do it. Gunther must really like Doom. He's a Doom guy. Does that make Voya the Slayer? Come here, son. Come here. I know you can do it, you're just being a cat. I love you. You're such a good and sweet boy. No lap time? Come here. Oh, you're gonna go across the bridge? It's a big stretch. I'll just help you. There you go. Get however you want to be comfy. To be comfy. The comforts of lap time. Welcome, Midnight Dynamite. Happy Caturday! One more bite. A basket full of kisses to disperse. Thank you. I'm just not kissing Gunther's ass, no offense. I think Gunther likes Doom. It's my new theory in life. Something about it brings him upon us. Voya likes Counter-Strike. I don't think Zeke's figured out his favorite game yet. Gunther's like raring up, ready to go. Put me in, coach. Alright, I'm in my position. Let's go. Goofy. I think I remember you saying that she watches the hockey too. Like wants to chase the puck. That's so funny. Hopefully she didn't block you from anything important. There's always replays, but... She had some good games tonight too then. That's cute as heck. That's adorable. I don't even know where I'm going. The yonder there ways, which is like still this way, but then down and around and somehow magically floating up. Okay. If you say so. Get your cozy, Gunther. Get your cozy. At the very least, your fuzzy blanket that's the same color as her came out of the dryer. She threw that on her and she dove her head under to get all of it. Aww. Bless you. Happy, cozy, warm baby. Cozy blanket fresh out of the dryer is supreme blanket. It's best blanket. I'm receptive to it, but I don't think I've ever seen the zoo be receptive to it. That's cute that she does that. A very happy Bane indeed. I don't know what those drone things are. I don't know if they're bad. Or if they're good. Well, the sound just changed. That's worrisome. Well, I see you. I have the plasma gun. I have no scope. I did not know what I was walking into. No, get off of me. They're so slow until they're right at you. And then they do like a lurch. It's very like zombified movement. Hey, friend, no. Not friend. Not friend. Oh, Gunther doesn't like these guys. He says lap time is over. Or either that or he has faith in my gameplay. He's like, Mom, you got this. You don't need me. And the powers of Gunther Oni. What are you gonna do? We haven't seen a swirly guy yet. Did the other Praetor token ones have Teletubby glowies? I don't think so. That was weird. It was unique. I'm not a good jumper. Not my strong suit. I don't think that was... Oh my fucking god, really? Also, they stole that move from Wolfenstein. Oh! Oh! I'm on flat ground! Okay. How far did I backtrack, though? Oopsies. Big oopsies. Well, don't just throw things at me from there. I don't know how to get back up there. Damn my hubris. Oh, I don't want to waste ammo. So they'll just shoot relentlessly with the worst gun and fall off of things. Sure, makes sense. Absolutely valid. Which is to say, not valid at all. That was stupid. I feel like we were down here a long time ago. Like, that's far back. Uh-oh. There has to be a way. There's no way that there's not a way. Those to that? Does that look climbable? Who do you think I am in this armor? Lara Croft? No. If you say so, boss. I'll take it. I don't remember where I was going or where I came from. Oh, this is where we just were. Perfect. I thought for some reason it took us further back. Is there any goodies in here? Nope. There's trouble though. Where you'd morph in your little butt too. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, don't fall over the edge again. You don't want to figure that out again. When one fucks around, one finds out. How many of your friends are in there? Golly gee willikers, Batman. A girl just wanted to loot. A girl just wanted to loot. You know what? Stinky stinker. I'm just wanting to go back to get the chunk of ammo, but I guess I can't pick that up. Oh. I mean, technically I don't have to destroy the hive. But I think we're doing good with that in objectives, I think. Welcome, John. Happy Saturday. Happy Caturday. I will cheers to that. Welcome. Oh, it was the last level bit that had the destroy all the hive minds thing. I still want to do it. We're gonna have fun dying trying. But there's the objective. Look, yeah. Oh, I got myself more lost all over again. Doot, 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 doot. Let us bring upon our own demise. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Ooh, there's a big guy right off the bat. That's not good. In a very general direction, we are just shooting at everything that moves. Not very successfully, and that's okay. Can't win them all. Can boom some of them, however. No, get out of my way. Get out of my way. I nuked myself. That happens more often than I'd like to admit with the rocket launcher. I get too gutsy with it. And then my guts blow up. Oops. Again, damn my hubris. Character got bored with life. Respawn! Give me a better reality. I wish I could do that. I don't know what I want. Welcome to Mad Topher. Hope you are having a good night so far. Happy Caturday. There's some health over there. I gotta remember that. Oh, I'm down? Why am I down again? That's how we got up there. Why so far away? You're stinky. It's a weird respawn point. Sorry, the little miniony's not even defeated. Oh. Okay. Big redo. Everyone moved away from the boomers. This is why we don't prematurely waste ammo. Boink, boink. My health fell over the edge. Come back to me. What is going on over there? That's the whole situation. I hear feet. It's my feet. I guess. Okay, now my own demise. Let's go. I'm cautiously optimistic. Oh, you don't want to grab and sip your coffee right now, girlfriend. You're gonna want to hold off on that. Because, yeah, that was a good. And there's two of them. But wait, there's more. This is not great. This is not great at all. Woof. He smooshed. Should have glory killed the other little bitch. Where are you? Perception. Health. Thought I was gonna die. I may still die. But we're trying not to, at least. There's an attempt. What are you doing monkeying around? Oh, you're still going and doing things. Oh. He swipey swipe. He swiped like Slavka. Swipe. That was effective. Checkpoint reached. Good. That was intense. Now we breathe. Oh, our checkpoint is over here. I don't think there's anything in this corner except the door. There's the door to the other side. It's not a me door. That's a them door. It's a they door. It's a more door. Checkpoint. Hulk smash. I'm hoping it'll be pretty smooth sailing for whatever the rest of this chapter is. Or this... I don't even know what to call them anymore. This segment. Because there was that really difficult bitch before bed last night. It has to give you a break after that, right? I would think. It works. I thought Samuel was our friend. Are we bad now? Are we corrupted? Oh my god. It's like the garbage moving puzzle. Toxic waste moving puzzle from 3. Was I supposed to be on that? Oh. Over there. How do we over there? I think I was supposed to jump. Oh, it's waiting for me. It's waiting for you. Or it's just a floating platform at this point. I want a flashlight. None of that just for me. What are you? I want you. Can I have you? No. Well, that's rude. Pull the lever, Crunk. Oh, we've been over here many times before. Was this one not unlocked before? Hold up. I've reached an end of the line here. Where are you asking me to go? Are you gonna jump through the roof? I don't know how to do that. I do not. Is another door open in here now? I feel like I'm just moving further away from the objective. Because I am. Okay, that can't be right. Always make sure you didn't leave anything behind when you pack all your things up. Now, where the hell did I come out of in here? Where the heck? We're good on health. What are you? You're glowy. Shiny. What are you? Looks like a remember all. Welcome, Nikki. Happy Caturday. Oh. We one upped ammo, we one upped armor. That's one up health. I don't think that's right. Probably should have done the health one first. But I feel like I'm only dying of my own stupidity, not like genuine, true difficulty. 125 health increase. Yeah. Oh, where do you want me to go? Is that the way up? Does not look like it really would be. I don't think we can jump the second one that high. I don't think life works like that. I did have fun at the car show. I was excited but disappointed but excited. There was one Mitsubishi. Wahoo. That's okay. No 3000 GTs. That's okay. But I did have a good time. Pippi enjoyed it. She loved all the compliments. Favorite moment was when an old man walked by and went, "What a cute bitch." And I'm pretty sure he was talking about her. It was good times. It always is. I'm glad I went. I felt bad though, right when we got there. My buddy had mentioned that he wanted to look at a 69 Camaro to see how they did like the side panels or something. I don't feel like this is gonna, well, maybe. I don't think this is gonna take me around either. And I completely forgot, and then we both remembered when we were back in the car. Boo. Boo. Usually I'm good about paying attention to things, but I was paying attention to the stroller and Pippi and Stream and cars, and my brain was at full capacity. How do I get to wherever you are? How do I do? This is bothersome. Why you know makes sense? Is there a ladder? I mean, like, there's a ladder, but I don't think we can pick that up and take it. Doom doesn't work like that. Sadly. Backhanded compliment. Kind of. I almost put Pippi in a sweater with, like, the blue and, like, the same green as my shirt, and then I realized everyone would think she's a boy. So I put her in a pink sweater, so it was very obvious she was a girl. Or a very feminine boy dog, I don't know. Where do you want me to go? It was funny, though. It made me laugh. But there's a Mitsubishi, and there's a little, every year they do, like, some kind of movie setup. I can't remember if it was last year or the last year or the year before that it was the Batmobiles, like, not actual, like, just shell replicas of. And this year they had a little Jurassic Park setup. Maybe I have the pictures from that. No. He was tired. He went to bed. Okay, go sleep then, man, creature, human. Go to bed. Got pictures in front of it with Pippi. There's a little animatronic dinosaur. That was my favorite. I loved seeing the Mitsubishi, and it was decked out like a stock car, so it was even cooler. But the Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park. What the fuck do you want me to do here? I have to consult the professionals. I don't know what I'm doing, and I've wandered for quite some time. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just lost. Lost in the sauce. Welcome, Dr. D. Hope you're having a good night so far. Happy Caturday. Happy Caturday. You too. And you can't be much further than, like, I am now.
We spent decades perfecting the science, selling it to humanity.
Where are you? The space does not look familiar. That looks scary. I'm bad at balancing. I remember going through there. The cave? The Cave of Wonders? Where was the cave? Gee. Is that it over there? No. That is a wall. It's back through the other room? Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. I did enjoy the break from backtracking in Eternal. That was probably one of my biggest compliments for it in terms of how I enjoyed the game. I could say a lot about how the game is put together, and it's quite wonderful and magical and beautiful, and they did a really good job with it, but I suck. However, I kind of like just jumping into arenas and not having to go backtrack. Now we're back to backtracking. I don't remember what this was. Maybe this way. That's a no door now? Or are you yes door? Can you be a yes door? What have we been through here? What? I know not what I have done. Stuff and things. Stuff and things. Oh, well, I got somewhere. I don't know how I got there. But we got there. High five, Club Colts. Oh, you're not who I thought you were. We're good. Oh, don't bite my butt. Don't bite my butt. Don't bite my butt. Get over here. You were just almost dead. Why are you so aliving? Feeling personally victimized over here. Why am I choosing this one guy to have a vendetta against? That was cool though. Fire in the air? What do you mean? What are you? Oh, Berserk. It's for me, not for them. Okay. So I jump instead of hit. Okay, that's smart. Where did anyone go? Why did I use that now instead of when I released the hive? That was fucking dumb. Will it last? Shit. Oops. No! Canceled out. Shady. Shady as fuck. Oh, and you are not my friend. We die together, sir. Oh, no, JK, I'm running. 6 health. Oh, this is not great. Wait, we're gonna save Berserk for after we release the hive. Now that I know what that is, it looks too much like the totem thing that made everyone else go insane in Eternal. So now I'm gonna get used to this being that way, and then I'm gonna get thrown off when we jump into Eternal again. Fuck. No bueno. It's a lot of red indeed. Red is dead. I'm red. I don't know what you're doing, Giant Wally. I don't even know how I got over there. Through the broken door? I think. Yes. You can go this way, or you can go that way. Actually, that's not true. We can only go this way. It's not ammo. Let's go about this a little differently. It's not worth to aim to shoot if you're gonna get shot at, goober. What in the keep away are we doing? Eep. Eep. I shot him in the butt and he did a little jump forward. Someone on Doom's dev team heard about my butt shots. What do you think you're doing, Serena? Okay, we're gonna save that. That's good stuff. Walk around and Doom like a drunk toddler, like nert, 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 nert. Trouble, trouble, trouble. What, everyone's over there now. Oh, that's not really how I want to do that with him. Nope. I'm taking both of us out, kind of, maybe. No, okay, we're good. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to fire off one of those. Oh, that other bitch is gonna be over here in a sec too. You spinny girl. Our little spinneret friend. Stomp. I don't like her. I thought we were done with her for a little bit. Apparently not. Don't block my jumpy. This is my jump. Don't steal my jumps. I think it's kind of useless to keep going after these guys if they're all that's left. Just go after her. However, she's spawning her pretty little ass off too. There's a ring of fire for something somewhere. Because they're just gonna keep spawning imps while she's doing her own thing. Fuck her. Fucking bitch. Oh, we were so close. Right there, right there. Don't miss. Don't miss. Have some aim about you. Case in point. Case in point. I didn't even use the berserk. I forgot about it. You stupid fucking cunt. I hate you. I hate your guts. I just plain hate your guts. She's not terribly awful, but God is she annoying. I'm not a fan. Oh, she gets destroyed and she takes the other imps with her. Good. Good. Good girl. I still don't know if she's a girl or a boy, but she's a demon. She's on demon time anyway, number 1. Number 2, she's like an effeminate build. I feel like I could defend that in court. Where do we go now? This way? To where? Through the green. Green is good. Open airlock. I thought it was going to be the end of the chapter. I was wrong. I feel like we just, not just started this one, but we're at most like 75% of the way through it. Did I do that wrong? Oh, mission control. New stream desk goals. Franch setup.
If stopping our energy production is what you want, then you need only to destroy this last filter, and Argent energy will no longer exist in this solar system. We will be back at square one.
Let's go. What was our game? I thought Tiger was crying.
What you have just done.
Completed.
Olivia is still alive. I've detected her life signature at the Argent Tower. She has removed one of the accumulators from the tower base.
Do we have to go rescue the princess?
Well, that's it then. There's nothing else to be done.
Oh no, we kill her. What's our next objective? Kill Olivia Pierce. Okay. That sounds a little extreme. Kinda looks like a turbo. Oh, now oh, okay. It is the end of the chapter. Quelle surprise. I completed 1 of 3 challenges. I'll take it. The last one is perform 2 death from above glory kills on Hell Knights. Yeah, like, it's really cute that you think I'm capable of that. Maybe on, like, a lowly imp. On a Hell Knight? I don't think that's happening. I don't have that kind of skill and positioning and self-control. That's ambitious. I have ambition, but that's a bit ambitious. Load. hidey, 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 hide. Loady, 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 load.
Primary access points to the tower were destroyed in the explosion. The pipeline is damaged
I
but
don't
still
want to bouncy
intact.
around. I do not
There
have
are
tactical
thrusters
skills in
maintenance
that
hangar.
sense.
You can use them to traverse the pipeline.
I am not a rock climber. I'm not a traverser. I'm a reverser. I turn around and walk away when that's what I have to do. Huh. The Pippi seal of disapproval. Huh. How the fuck do you want me to do this? Oh, you are ambitious. Alright, sweetheart. Honey bun. Little bunny foo-foo. What do you want me to do? Oh, Rocket Man. Do you still have me seeking rockets? I want to try this for a second. Oh no, he has me seeking lasers. So the rockets align with the lasers. Okay. In 3, they're me seeking missiles. They specifically seek you out. I was surprised that they changed that in Eternal. It appears they have changed it within here too. I don't know what I'm jumping up on here for. Excuse you. Where am I getting pew-pewed at from? Y'all can calm down, you know, you have that option. What the fuck are you? You're on fire. That's not good. Bloop bloop. Well, my dear good best friend over here. Oh, more good friends. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Boomed myself a little. Taste of your own medicine, sir. I don't like his little flying games. That's kind of stinky. He's going Super Saiyan on us. That was uncomfy. Jesus Louises. No way, but I thought that would be a health machine. Oh, I feel for you, Midnight Dynamite. Drink some tea. Tea is good for you. Can't scoop you up, so I'll scope you up. That's not the way I intended to do that, but the thought was still there. Hey, knockoff Cortana. You have to go to the store, not in this moment, and buy some. Club Cult needs to be in tip-top shape to prepare for our imminent presidency. Let me pick up the thing. Thank you. I want the pada. The pada is mine. Chiropractor searching high and low over what? Okay. I feel like he needs the chiropractor, not me. Okay, I'm right by a checkpoint. Where? It's just right behind me? Really? Like, I'm smart enough to find that. Got some moon boots. Oh, we got some double jump boots. Is that like the extendable robot legs in Wolfenstein? It's just an extra jumpy jump. Okay, I like it. It's cute. It's very cute. Next objective. That's a lot of meters away. 419. I don't know if we can go that way. I don't think we can go that way. Jump around. Jump around. Something, something. Jump up. And something, something. I really only know that song from My Name is Earl. The Jump for Joy episode has not been a part of my everyday life playlist, unfortunately. I'm just super cool. There you go. Jumpy. I guess that's why we got that. Wait, the big green, I guess that's a rune. From far away, it kind of looks like a vagina. Like a radioactive vagina. Can I not go through there anymore? Is that like lost now? I wanted to hit the button. Shady. Okay. Is that a way to go? Or would that be? I'm assuming we're moving in height traverses at this point. Where is even the objective on here? So far that we don't even get to see it. Maybe we haven't picked up the full map yet. There's no way through that. So tall. So tall. It is such a good show. Today you'll watch in order, we saw so many episodes. I feel like it makes sense watching it completely together, as most things are designed to. But at the same time, it still makes sense. Like, you're not lost out, really, on anything by watching it out of order. Which is cool. It's probably on, like... It might be up in the top 10 of my favorite shows. I enjoy it very much. I'm lost again. I'm assuming I gotta get tall to go somewhere, but I don't know where. There, is that a way? Good Christ. No. This is great. I don't know, there's green on here. That has to mean something, right? What's this? But it really asked me to go that way. It's a very lighthearted show, but it's almost kind of sad to watch in chronological order. You can enjoy it, at least for me. I've watched it randomly many times, but in order, I think 3, maybe 4 times. I did a rewatch recently. And the last rewatch I did with it, it made me cry. Watching it all the way through. Like, there are so many feelings felt. I don't think I can make this jump, but let's try. Okay. What does that do for us? We're somewhere else. There's armor over there, but I'm not concerning myself with that. Prison Break I never watched, but I've heard really good things about it. Pull the lever, Kronk. I don't think we can. I'm gonna scream. Where do you want me to go? In the boiler room? Oh, we're back in here. I wanted to get that thing. Okay. I'm okay with this now. I am more accepting of reality. I'm done overreacting. I'm over it. Oop. There's not a wall there. That's just clear. Writer director of My Name is Earl kind of picked it up with a different show. I don't know. That's a good question. If so, I want to watch whatever it is. My Name is Earl sequel? Oh, no way! I think I've seen this advertised on Netflix a few times. Not like advertised, but shown on like the suggested for you. I really didn't pay too much attention to it. The synopsis didn't seem like something I would be interested in. It does not have an official produced sequel or movie. And it was left on a very to-be-continued cliffhanger. Maybe that's why I was so emotional about it the last time I watched it. But the show's universe continues through references in Raising Hope. That's cool. I do kind of like all the reboots happening very mindfully lately, though. I haven't seen any of the new Scrubs, but I feel like new Scrubs will be good. I have hope for that one. I think I have too many strong feelings over, like, cartoons being remade versus real people TV shows. No, I had to look it up, because if there's more My Name is Earl, I need My Name is Earl. Raising Hope. See, never judge a synopsis by its cover. You just have to watch everything. You just have to spend the rest of your life watching TV. Like in, oh, what the fuck is the movie? I can never remember the name of it. I can see it in my head. What is it? What is it? What is it? Idiocracy. The irony that I don't remember Idiocracy. The idiocracy of not remembering the name of Idiocracy. Movie where people are stupid. Alright, what happens when we boop this? Oh, it's Rune Trials. It's the super shotgun? Oh, okay. You got cocky over the last one. Because somewhere in my mind, I think I can do this. I don't remember if that one's on Netflix or Hulu. Where I've seen it pop up. I paused my Netflix because I really haven't been Netflixing, so why would I want to pay for it? It is on Hulu. Maybe I'll bop into it tonight. I finished Modern Family. I've been like background rewatching Superstore, which is really cute. Also pretty like well done and down to earth on many issues, but like still a good comedy. I would recommend. Not like the best show there ever was, but it's titillating. Jimmy Chance, 23-year-old man skims. It's not the name of the dude from. At least Jimmy. I don't know about Chance. The name of the dude from. I can't remember anything tonight. My brain is off. With the chick from It's Always Sunny. One more Google search. I never remember what her name is. Caitlin Olsen. That's such like a simple, memorable name. It wasn't high potential. The Mick. That's what it was. Her boyfriend in that one, his name is Jimmy. I feel like this is like the similar kind of person. Jimmy Chance, a 23-year-old man who skims pools for a living, has a chance romantic encounter with Lucy, a wanted felon. He visits Lucy in prison months later. Jimmy discovers she gave birth to a baby he must now raise, with his family's help. Jimmy's family includes his parents, who have no interest in helping him to raise their grandchild. His grandmother, Mama, can barely care for herself, let alone a baby. Greg Garcia, My Name is Earl, created and executive produces the family comedy. We may just have to give it a try tonight, boys. It looks cute. You watched Idiocracy when you got it for Christmas half your life ago and didn't really laugh because you're like, no, this is too real. We're kind of there now. That's part of the irony of it. It is terrible but beautiful. She's hilarious. Her and my aunt could be like, maybe not twins, but definitely cousins. She looks a lot like her. She's so funny. I enjoy her comedy very much. Oh, this is so much easier than with the regular shotgun. Are you kidding me? This is the tits. I guess I gotta not hunt for ammo and shoot more. $13 out of 20. Shit. Shit. Shit! Oh, so close. You had 14 out of 30. Oh, 30 targets? Oh my god. We got halfway there. Superstore is cute. It has, I think America Ferreria? I don't know how to say her name. It went for a handful of seasons. I think it's done now. It's very cute, though. America Ferrera. I always put an A in her name. It's very cute, though. It came out, I think, in pandemic times. Nope, way before that. I got into it around the Panini. That's when I discovered it. It's very, very amusing. It kind of has a bit of a Frou Frou Lala storyline, but it's still good. I only say that because there's like a mild love story mixed into it, and that makes it a little Frou Frou Lala. Hi Gunther, hold on buddy. Where's the next set of guys? No, I didn't get to see. I'm trying it again. Okay, come here. I need my good luck buddy. Come here, good luck buddy. Where's the next set of guys? We have to figure that out before this can all be accomplished. Anyway. That was amusing. Up in the corner, maybe? Ah! So close. As soon as I hit the trigger, we ran out of time. Oh, I'm determined with this. I like these. I generally don't like challenges in games. It's usually just extra annoying shit. But I'm liking this one. It's also truly just button mashing because it's timed, so it agrees with me. I am strong in the button mashing department. Shit! Not this round, though. Elza. No, no, get over here. You stink. I don't think I'm going to get 30 of them. Give it 2 more runs. Not even making it past the second barricade. We can go back and do it another time anyway. Maybe like the goal is to already be down here? I don't know. Well, not to get hit. Stop it. Or does 2 at a time increase your timing? Fuck! I got antsy. I missed. Serena. Calm. Goose Fraba. Slow and steady wins the race. But it's a time challenge. It's just me arguing with me. I'm an idiot. I just thought to myself, can I throw grenades? I wouldn't recommend that. No, this one is not for me. One more. And then I agree that it's not for me. Maybe I'm like moving too slowly with it in general, like do an infinite amount of them spawn if I just keep running. Is that how we do this? Oh my god, no, you just always miss at the 3rd round guy. I need to kill him and then we can give up on this. Because now it's personal. Didn't go any differently or more effectively the other way. You're a waste of time. Let me get to him! I should have decided the other guy was a waste of time. That's not nice. Gunther, give me the good lucks. Give me all of the good luck, Chucks. I love how I walked into this and decided it was easy peasy, and it is not in fact easy peasy. Oh! There's no ground there. In case we didn't know, there's no ground there. I learned. Oops. I got locked in on both. Must defeat stage 3 beginning guy. Must or cannot live with oneself. I can't sleep tonight, knowing that I let him defeat me. I'm in danger. How do the pros do this? And not even playing on easy. Not my happy place. There's no floor there, Serena! There's no floor there. That was ambitious. The word of the night, ambitious. Get off me. Don't do that. Too close for comfort. We're not buddy pal friends like that. Quit booping me. Quit it. I'm not gonna make it to our friend. Ha! Okay, now I don't care what happens. I won in my book. Yeah, can we get some plyboard there? That'd be nice. Like a warning sign. Oh, I didn't mean to do it again. This is just for Yaya's muscle memory pressings. I want to hit whatever our next checkpoint is, and then it's probably bedtime. I don't know what time it is. I'm guessing it's about somewhere between 1:15 and 1:30. Oh. Overboarded myself. Oh no, my time predictor is off. It's 12:56. That's okay. I can be wrong sometimes. It didn't look like that was exposed at all. It's a little embarrassing. Just jumping overboard. The Praetor suit can equip up to 3 runes. What? We can equip runes? Do we have runes? We have things with exclamation points that I have ignored. I have a sneeze that may or may not snooze. Oh, we have our only rune together. Oh, I can only be adept. Can't do the other. Switch weapons faster. Okay. Oh, we have a lot of things that I have just ignored. I really just use that as a wastable ammo. I've killed 69 enemies with the tactical scope. Or with the heavy assault rifle. Ha. 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 Aha. 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 Bullets fired when zoomed will penetrate through targets. And move faster when zoomed in with the tactical scope. Got tactical scope on my mind. I don't know if I necessarily want to move faster. I like my speed currently. Let's get some penetrating bullets. Bigger boom. Oh. A recharge time. And big boom. Big bang. Some Big Bang Theory. I don't think there's anything for one. Why does everything go up in price when I buy more? What is this, the economy? I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Double jump. Runes. Artifacts. Haste. Doom Marine. Berserk. Monsters. Oh, you summoner. I don't know, there's like a lack of boobs, but there's still an effeminate build. Cross the bridge. Let's see if we can cross the bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We're going where? To bed. Dope. I went places. Can I jump back up there? Oh no. Serena. Why did you, I don't know how I got there. Here. There we go. I just wanted to bump his head. Welcome, Bronson. Hope you're having a good night tonight. I have to go that way? That's what I was concerned about before. I don't want to. Give me bird's eye view. Those ways? Question mark? That feels very oppositely though. Can we jump that far? Oh, good God. Not when you run into things like that. It's no longer a matter of can you, it's will you? I'm not directionally savvy. I don't think that would be the way. Are you the way? Is out the way? Can we go across on the other platform? Was I just side questing casually? Like, bitch, what? Where's the in-between spot? Is it one more floor up? Boop. It is. Ugh. This pains me. This pains me deeply. Oh, okay. I didn't really think that would work. Oh, it's not attached. It was an optical illusion. Breathe deep. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. Welcome, Numb. Hope you're having a good night so far. Greetings and salutations. How proper. I love it. Thought that was a body. That's pipes and rope. I don't like this. I feel very exposed in the middle of space here. Don't make me jump places. Don't make me jump places. Welcome, Globby. We embrace the lurk. We embrace the lurk. Ah! Okay, we did it. We also embrace trying our best. Oh, that's not a way to go. I mean, maybe it is. But that should not be my first choices. And now I don't know where we go. Fork. What do you want from me from here? Inside? Safety? What hell are you? What hath you wrought into my world, game? Oh my god. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I think we're headed in the right direction. But I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Certainly can't jump over there. We didn't come from there, right? Am I supposed to jump down to over there? Like, oh, there is another platform. Are you crazy? Pray. No. No. Naughty. Naughty. I still have to figure out how to get up from here. Thank you very much. Naughty. Leave me alone. I don't know if that's gonna work. Oh my god, it did. Okay. Doot, 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 doot. Just casually, like it's not even happening at all. Everything is fine. Keep calm. Grab your towel. Bouncy buddy. I don't like this. Oh my god, I need indoor space. Huh. Huh. I don't like this. I don't like this. That's red. Red means bad. Red means no. Shit. Get off of me. But where else are you being a fucker? There's one right next to me, isn't there? Yep. Stop spawning! Maybe that's why it shows red over there. They're a little closer. Hitting the barrel would do it. That one, it's red on that side. I don't think that's the way to go. I don't know. Whatever leads to that way. That's green. That's green and red. That's not helpful. Where do I go from here? I don't fucking know. Did I jump across from there to here? I disassociated. I don't know what I did. Red usually means no. But there's no other green. This is Doom. It's Doom 4. Still Doom. Just different Doom. Uh-oh. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. My weekend has been wonderful. I'm glad yours is going great. I went to a car show earlier today. It was marvelous. It's been a good weekend. I will take that. I will accept that. I literally have no idea where to go. Like, you make no sense to me. There's a railing, right? Oh! Who the fuck allows you to climb over a railing just by pressing forward and not even jump? I am calling OSHA. You have got to be dicking me. That was unnecessary conduct. Motherfucker. Oh my god. All of that hard work undone. Oh my god. Okay, now we know. Living life on the edge is just as dangerous as living life over the edge. Now we know. I still don't know where I'm going. Did it this way? I guess I used that platform to get over here before. This looks a little friendlier. Well, don't you get all up in everything over there. Nutshot annihilation. Yeep! Oh, that was so lucky. I don't know how I didn't fall to the depths of bottom. Where are you? Good lord. No, I don't think this one is right. I think the other way. I don't think it's likely it would be walking across a pipe. Right, find your little happy place in life. It's a nerve-wracking sound, that meow. Oh my god, I hate this. Oh, is that actually the way we go? For real, for real? I gotta look-see right quick. Not friend. How come you can hit me, but I can't hit you? I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be dead in 2 seconds. Oh no, this is where I got stuck before. I don't know what this is asking me. Ah, I found you. I found you. Ooh, 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 ooh. I have no idea where to go from here. This does not compute. He's so far, that's so inconvenient. It's wildly inconvenient. You still do the silly little things through the there? No, haha. So you have to find your way over to me, jumpy style. Again, I don't think this is right because it's red. But when in hell, I don't know. It looked like that pipe underneath the other spot would have taken us there, though. Oh my god, how do I get back wherever I was? Oh no. Don't do that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Please don't kill me. I think I might be figuring it out. Please. Please be dead. I have 3 health. That's really what we want to get onto a checkpoint for. Oh, Lord. What side was I on? How are we going to climb around the connecting bits, though? I don't think that's the way. I think I was wrong. It's before the little bridge portion, like through here. Oh, I guess I was looking at this. Through there. Never mind. Fuck. I don't know. Can I just grow wings and fly? Can the what's-her-face come pick me up and take me? The summoner? Can I summon the summoner? Mm. They're uncaring buggers, and how dare they? Demons with no empathy over here. The guest book I have not heard of. Raising Hope has been suggested to me by television algorithms. But outside of that, I love My Name is Earl. I don't know what the other one is. Never heard of it. It looks like we do go across, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I'm kind of out of brain cells. It's been a long day. I don't understand you. I don't understand. I'm on 3 health. Like, I really should just pull myself overboard. I'm consulting the professionals. Fit check. It fits. Oh, we're not in the Argent facility anymore. Shit, where are we? Do I need to die to find out where we are? Oh, no. I don't think environments would tell me. Oh, I guess so? Argent was the last one, though. The Foundry, does that look like where we are? I don't know. Bro, calm down. Calm down. Chill, babe. Chill. Chill. It's okay. Calm down. We moved to the next chapter, so it has to be a next chapter. Level. I couldn't think of the word level earlier. Chapter. Okay, apparently I'm not the only one having trouble scaling the tower. So boss. How you do? How? How? We got there. We got there. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. That's a different way. Geronimo! I have 3 health. What am I going to accomplish with 3 health? I don't want to hit a save checkpoint with 3 health. I don't want that. Welcome to the purple side, the Mad Topher. No, that was a purposeful death. That was a mercy killing of myself. My former self, my former glory. Now we will be enlightened. Perhaps. Or we'll go to bed. I haven't decided which yet. Burp. At what point was the little drop down thing? Doot, 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 doot. It was after there. I remember the Force Square Tower. I feel like I'm jumping over into it the hard way. Oh my god, there. What is wrong with you to do that? Doom devs. Scope is so dang sensitive. And you stinky? Okay, one at a time, guys. I think I'm just shooting the building. This is not comfortable. You can kill me before I get a chance to die for something worth dying for. Stinky butt. Stinky butt. Oh my god, you're still not dead. Fuck you. I'm done. Rockets. Rockets for all of you. Thank you. Rockets for everyone. And to all a good night. Why didn't I think of that earlier? That's a much better methodology. Oh, isn't that gonna take us back to like the same place? I don't know. I'm gonna follow what the guy says. Rockets just don't have quite the range that I want or need. Unfortunately. That sucks. Be dead. Christ almighty. There you go. Okay. We're there. What's next? Bring it on. Herbie Hancock. You know what? You know what? You're running through and going on your cute little adventure. We done did that before. Where are you? In La La Land. Okay, let's not kill me before I get the chance, please. Liz. Hey, that's green. I'm guessing that's next, but I don't know. I don't need to get it right tonight. I just need to understand it. It is a very catchy riff. Oh, he's jumping onto the wrong red side. Okay. The what? I guess that's slightly more efficient. Then you get some health back too. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who's pretty confused over here. Well, I don't like how intense this gets. Snapple. Yeah, I'm just as confused as you are, dude. Really? That's some shit. This is gonna be interesting. This is certainly no version of La La Land. Where'd you go? Is he right behind me? I feel like he's right behind me. This is going great. Where'd you go? You know what? Oh, I was gonna jump over. Like, you can't fire me, I quit. It's a dancing movie. I've never seen it either. I think the only dancing movie I've seen that I can think of off the top of my head is Coyote Ugly. Or like, does Black Swan count? Kind of. Maybe. I like the rocket launcher theory. That was nice. I don't need to survive, I just need to understand directions. Bloop. Bloop. Need to be on the other side. Bloop. It really doesn't matter where you go. Like, I feel like that's hard mode. Like, just jump up here. It's all the easier. Don't fall over the edge, though. That's not smart stuff. Can I shoot that this far? It's a rocket. It explodes. It should not matter if it's hitting the concrete, if it's hitting near him. Good golly, Miss Molly. Rockets. Rockets for life. Get the fuck off of me. There's probably going to be less evil things coming after me than was for him, because he was probably playing on difficulty. Difficulty difficult. And I am not playing on difficulty difficult. Ah! That was terrifying. My butt just fell through the floor. Ah! That was where he jumped, right? Get up there. Breathe. Goose frabba. God, this is awful. No! I had a feeling that would happen at some point. At some point. Musical with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. I've never even heard of it. Just Rocket? Is that from the movie? Was what Polish? Goose fraba? Goose fraba. It said in a movie, and I don't remember what movie it is. If it is Polish, that's news to me. It's an anger management. Thank you. Oh, that got further away. Or I jumped towards the wrong platform. Eliminated. Well, that was cool. Those guts kind of fell through. You're still just walking through. That was in real time. That was neat. I think he was dead like 2 shots ago, but that's okay. Gets the Pippi seal of disapprovals. I think where the demons are spawning, it's like doing the Running Man, is showing me where I ultimately need to go. Like, we're gonna get up there and then go across there. More than like. I thought I killed you. I did not. You can do it. You can do it. Quote is a lyric from Herbie Hancock's Rocket. It's got kind of a robotic sound to it. It sounds cute. Boop. Boop. Okay, so you have to jump like you're not gonna make it, and then you make it. Totally makes sense. Also, don't fall off the edge, Serena. Your guess is as good as mine for what's next. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. It's been a long day. I slept about 3.5 hours this morning, and I was at the car show, so I didn't get my afternoon nap in, and I have 0 brain cells. The neurons are not doing neuron things. They're not afire in their lasers. How did you get to that? What's that? It's definitely older than me. Well, so is Home James from the goddamn 1800s, so I have no excuse. Is this going to take us there? A little slide. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. 2 hops this time. Do. And then you put my leg to sleep. Ah! Okay. A game has not made me this much in a while. I don't like, but also appreciate it. Haha, I caught you, bitch.
That's an Argent accumulator she's carrying. She'll try to use it to open a portal manually.
She looks like grandma stealing a bottle of wine.
Power is non-functional. The connection to their dimension is still viable. We are at great
You won't
risk
take this
of
from me and hobbling away slowly. Am I on like a timed clock here? Do I need to stop here? What are our priorities? I don't know. I didn't even look if a checkpoint was reached. I think it was. I don't see why it wouldn't have. We just crossed a terrible, terrible journey. System offline. Where did she go? Which way did she go? Elevator locked. How do we unlock it? Thank you very much. Oh, now we have the super shotgun. Oh, if this were in a VR headset, I would fall on my ass. I've never played VR and it scares me. I would absolutely fall on my butt. Or like run into a wall or like punch the TV. What is your idea of how to get through here? My darling Doom. Our shotgun is all bloody. It's all beautiful and bloody. Hysterical, but painful. Quite painful. And potentially expensive. Like if I punch through the TV. feel like I remember an arena from Eternal that's set up extremely similarly to this. Ooh, what does purple do? Oh my god, don't fall over. Don't do that. Oh, oh, oh. Big booms. Oh my god, it's one of those bitches again. Okay, we defeat her and then bed. I am out of brain cells. I'm starting to get a headache from being awake for so long. I had different caffeine tonight, so my brain feels devoid of the proper caffeination of the nation. Who just howled? You are such a horrible bitch. I hate you. Oh god, I especially dislike you. We are not friends. We're not friends. Not even worth whatever health would come from you. What are you? And don't do that. Oh, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. It was like a very on-purpose accidental mistake. Don't question what my logic is for that. There's two of you? How do I know which one I've been shooting at then? Enough with these things that you think you need to throw. Enough with that. That's enough. It's more than enough, my sweet summer child. I really don't like them. Trying to think of another enemy in Doom that annoys me on a similar scale, and I don't think there is one. The pink, big, buff, creepy dude in Eternal, maybe, I find as equally annoying, but I don't think there's anyone from 3 that I find that annoying. The combination of the two imps coming at you, the Trouble Twins, as I call them, that's maybe equally annoying. But easier to get your way out of versus this. Oh. Still 380 something meters away, Jesus. Jesus. What does the purple do? Quad damage. That probably would have helped. I'm assuming that at some point this is checkpointed. It's a little door. Is this a cute little door? Aww. It's adorable. It's adorable. I don't think we can jump on top of the train and take it. No, it loses space through the doorway. That's a very good question. Whoa, holy fucking map. That's a lot of space to cover. Like, as a whole. Sheesh. Can I just walk through? Like, is that what you want me to do? That doesn't seem likely, but it's also possible. I don't know. We try it and then we see what... Whoa! What checkpoint info it gives us if we do die. And okay, that was the way. I thought maybe, but I was a doubter. Give me the pada. Give me the health. Healthies. This one does have a very sci-fi aesthetic, especially like this health power-up bit. It reminds me of Alien Isolation and Syndrome as well. Am I about to get smushed? Doorway. Walk through the doorway. There you go. It does have a very sci-fi vibe. Even down to like the monsters. They look more like aliens than Martians in this one. They're just back to looking like doofy, spooky cartoon guys once we get to Eternal, though. I didn't really see like the Martian aesthetic for them. Down we go. To where? I don't know. They copied that mechanism from Wolfenstein. Oh, we're not fighting this guy tonight. I'm gonna really not like myself for leaving off on him. But we're gonna give this one of our best bet goes, and then to bed we go. I am not ruining my night over a boss. It's overstimulating. Oh. The health is not strong with this one. Boop. 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 Very lucky that was there. You're good on armor. So at least there's that. System locked. I don't know where I'm going, but it's keeping us out of trouble for a moment. So I'll take it. What are you guys doing up there? Really? The weirdos? Oh my god. What are you doing here? No. No. Get off of me! It was not nice. How are you so fast? He's a zoomy boy. He's a very zoomy boy. Oh my gosh. He's running in his cute little circles. Time to panic shoot, boys. Panic shooting. Oh, there's two of them. Are you fucking... Just take it. Take it, bitch. Take it. No, not you, him. Is there 3 of them? Buddy. You gotta be so fucking for real right now. Christ. Where's my super shotgun? I want my super shotgun. Oh, I forgot about the reload time. Never mind, never mind, never mind. JK. Okay, where'd the big guy go? Fucking die. It was fun while it lasted. Oh god, I have really fucked myself on ammo here, haven't I? Oops. Ah, goodies. That sounds big. Oh, thank Jesus. Oh, oh, no. No. Bad Rocket Man. Bad. Naughty. Very naughty. Very naughty. We got a trophy. What did we get for a trophy? Momentum shift. That sounds about right. Actually aiming at him instead of just like right next to him probably would be helpful, Serena. That would be making good choices. We're gonna try and make some good choices. I think he was the last big guy, then there's just imps. The momentum shift, you are not wrong on that. Oh, there's one more whippy guy. And there's an imp behind me. Where'd the other dude go? What does this do? I selected it before, but I didn't do anything with it. I don't think it does anything. It just turns me purple. I mean, like, that's fun and cute, I guess. Well, we jumped. Just much hype. Major excite. Health? There's health over there. How do I get to that? That's our objective. But health! Health. Sweepy planing. Much big jumps. This has been a very adrenaline-filled portion of game. Good lord. Lord have mercy. Okay, I can go to bed satisfied with myself now. I can die happy. I'm guessing that will be some sort of checkpoint, or that we've reached some sort of checkpoint. I don't know. There's a checkpoint somewhere. Like it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but there's a checkpoint somewhere. Where did that take me that was of importance? I think it wants me to jump around places, which, like, joke's on you. It's not happening tonight. I think we have officially reached the point in the game where each next portion just leaves me more and more confused. Directionally. Pretty sure I don't jump into the big fiery laser. Everything else, I have no idea. Some improvements. Can we do anything with this yet? Faster reload, yes please. Thank you. Okay, Doom. You did us good tonight. Salute, Doomslayer. Salute. Oh, we did good today, Club Cult. We did good. I was lost for 48 minutes straight. Last time I looked at the clock was around, around 1. That's 1:48. That's a long time to be confused for. But we learned. That's the important part. We learned. We tried our best. We succeed. And then we try again. Another day. Now we sleep. Now we sleep. I think we actually did do pretty good tonight. Considering all of the obstacles that we encountered, I think we really did do pretty good tonight. I mean, I'm never a good gamer. I know that about myself, and I accept that about myself. But some nights are a little better than others. Some nights a little worse than others. And tonight is a round of applause kind of night. Bravo. I could not have done it without you, Club Cult. Indeed, indeed, indubitably. Indubitably. Oh, why thank you. Why thank you. If I wasn't so lazy and exhausted right now, I would get up and give you all a bow. But my legs are also both asleep from Gunther laying on me. So I am like essentially immobile at this moment because baby. Gunther says, "What do you mean bedtime? We're already asleep and snuggly." I do have numb feet, numb fingers. My toes is asleep. Pretty much everything is numb up to my knees. Numb up to my knees. Gunther loves having lap time crisscross applesauce, but it does not always work in my favor. It does not. Boya's big enough and Zeki's big enough to where they sprawl over my lap, but Gunther always lays on a particular nerve or something that makes at least one leg fall asleep. Tonight he's overachieving. He's trying to match my achievement level in game by numbing out both legs. Come here. Gunther looks like he has less hair around his eyes than usual. And that seems like a weird thing to notice. Or like even point out. Does that make sense? I want to see a not so recent picture I've taken of him and see if I'm actually being crazy. He always kind of looks like that, but he does have less hair around his eyes. That's weird. That's a more accurate representation of Gunther. Let me try and take a picture of this. Come here. Which he has been grooming and rubbing his eyes a lot more. Which that would explain why they're probably pretty naked. Gunther, let me see your beautiful eyes. Gunther, Gunther, pause your bath time. Chaos. He's more naked around his eyes. There's less hair. Have I just not stared at you hard enough lately? Like, I don't think that's an overnight thing. He doesn't look red, but watch, the solution will probably be to put a soft cone on him. And you know we love that. Gunther will hate a cone. Gunther would not like wearing a cone. Gunther with the aura maxing. Gunther is a man of the world. I love Gunther. I wish he could be a person so he could be a cute old man and I could marry him. I do think you need an appointment though. We gotta talk to Doc about that. Because maybe he needs drops or something. I feel like I looked at him really, really close and was like staring at him hardcore after he got his teeth clean though. And that was just last week. So we've had warmer weather. Oh no, that was 2 weeks ago on the 26th of February. So that was about a little over a week ago. I wonder if that's just gotten worse in the last week-ish with the weather getting ucky, like he's rubbing more. I don't know. I'm glad I noticed that. It's something to be mindful of. Gunther is the cutest little bean. He's so cute and sweet. Probably some kind of allergen irritation, but Gunther doesn't have the best sinuses either. He has a face like a pug, so he's smushed. He doesn't have very good breathing because his airways are much more smooshed in than the average cat. Gunther is a pug. He is the pug of cats. But I have noticed him grooming himself more. And that would indicate allergies and being itchy. And if he's rubbing at his eyes, then definitely so. Oh, buddy. We gotta keep an eye on that. And you gotta not rub your eyes. Are you crying when I'm not in the room? Oh, mommy. Oh, mommy. I don't have good sinuses either. I have a very bad deviated septum that's never been able to be really corrected. Unfortunately. That's why all the time. Because I constantly feel like every few breaths, or if I'm really focused on something, that like suddenly my body's like, you don't have enough air. And I also have asthma. So it sometimes becomes a very like sudden and like almost panicked sounding like, because my body's freaking out like, oh god, you can't breathe, asthma attack, try to breathe. And then it's not an asthma attack, it's just me missing 10% of my oxygen or whatever it is. I think I have like 25% breathing ability out of like each nostril, which is probably why I snore and why I sleep. Oh my god, you are the only other person I've ever met that is that way. For executive dysfunction causing you to forget to breathe sometimes. if I'm very, very focused on something, I forget to breathe. And then suddenly I find that I'm out of breath. And, like, I haven't just gone for a run. I haven't moved at all. You're the only other person I've ever met. Everyone thinks it's weird when I say, do you ever forget to breathe sometimes when you're super focused? You're like, what? No, it's automatic. Well, you would think so. Apparently not. Seasonal allergies suck. I don't have really bad allergies, thankfully. But I am slightly allergic to cats and dogs, even though I have cats and dogs. If I go to someone else's house, or if there's a new member of the zoo, then I get a little allergic for a while, and then after about a month, my body adjusts. It's high tension, you notice, when you have a hard little exhale. I notice it when I suddenly feel like I just ran a bunch and I didn't. Like, I'm not holding my breath, but it's the same amount of tension as if I were holding my breath. It's a weird feeling. The only other person I've ever met that does that, though. I'm sure there's many other people that do it, but everyone looks at me like I'm crazy when I'm like, do you ever forget to breathe? Sometimes you just forget to breathe. That's life. Oh, Gunther, he feels so bad. It's not terrible, but, like, obviously if he's rubbing it, then it doesn't feel good. Poor buddy. You will keep an eye on it for the next couple of days. My vet isn't open until Tuesday anyway. Tuesday. If it looks like it's getting any worse... No, let me rephrase that. If it doesn't look like it's getting any better, what's the weather the next couple of days? I think rainy and warmer-ish. It was decent out when I got home from the car show. That's why I was a little later bopping back. Because the doggies wanted to play. They wanted to play. Not really Tigra, but Diesel and Ringo. It's going to be 60s and 70s and then 40s, so it's going to keep being warm. If it gets any kind of worse, or just doesn't get better. Yeah, it is. It's definitely allergies. Are you doing it with both legs? He is. What the fuck? I have not changed anything in your environment. I forgot I got my hand stamped earlier. I'm super cool. I have not changed anything in your environment except for Zeke and Voya's food, which you don't eat. But I suppose there could be airborne particles that would be irritating. Darling. He's a little sparse with his hair on the inside of his legs. He's absolutely been allergy rubbing. I would assume allergies. I don't know. I'm going to call the vet on Tuesday. I'm not... Unless it gets dramatically better overnight. I'm calling the vet on Tuesday. What is in your hair? That's an eye booger. I feel bad. That looks uncomfortable. And cats have rough tongues. I mean, just him licking his legs and making them kind of sparse. It's not bad, like, at all. It's barely noticeable, but it's just noticeable enough, you know? It's probably very uncomfortable. I mean, like, I think we've all felt the feeling of having something in your eye that, like, you just can't get, and you just end up, like, rubbing your eyes for hours. That doesn't feel good. I think you've been doing that for a handful of days now, and I didn't notice. Marry a weirdo, fun-sized girl with auburn hair and many pets. Tell her you don't believe in marriage, but this is crazy. It's funny. It's awfully specific. Redheads are uncommon, though. You never know. Well, I feel like they're uncommon. Probably not uncommon, but most of the girls I know with red hair will dye it brown. Or go lighter to blonde. Because you always want what you can't have. which is why I'm going blonde. Baby, stop rubbing. Stop rubbing. It's the middle of the night. I can't text my vet now. I kind of want to ask tomorrow. I feel bad bugging him in off time, but tomorrow I might ask if I can give him some gabapentin to make him stop. Won't make him stop, it'll make him drunk and sleepy and not care about it. True gingers, yes, are uncommon, but reddish hair is not very uncommon. Not as common as brunette or blonde, but I'm not a true ginger because my hair changed. But this is about the color that it was when I was a little youngin'. A little young thug of the world. Just kidding. A junior crazy cat lady. You gotta stop licking. You gotta stop licking. I'm gonna shame you. He looks like the little aliens in in Toy Story. The claw. I'm sorry to make fun of you, Gunther. I love you. Have I changed makeup products? I smooch on him a lot. I don't think so. I found some older chapstick that was just like chilled in the kitchen that I hadn't used in a while that I've been using lately. But they've been exposed to that before. Stop licking your paws. Oh my god. Cat lady in training. I was born a cat lady in training. Like in the mythical tales, in the magical tales where like you are born unto a witch, you have magic in your blood. You shall too become a witch or a wizard or a warlock. I was born with cat lady in my blood. I was destined to become a cat lady. Oh, baby girl. Baby girl, baby boy. I mean, I guess gender doesn't really matter. He's neutered, but baby boy. I'm used to saying baby girl from Pippi all day. Where did I? Oh, they're in the bedroom. Oh my god, I'm a good boy. He's so creepy. He's such a little creeper. 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 It's just hard staring. It's like your judgment amuses me. Ah, it bores me. Ah, mouse. 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 A very sneaky spot. I just turned around and we dead stared at each other. Oh my god. Gunther is the man of the lap. Boy is the man of the house. This is a little sneaky spot. Sneaky little boy. It's not showing on camera, but when I look at him, his eyes are doing the glowy thing that cat eyes do, and he looks like a Disney character or something, like a Disney villain. Or like a Disney villain's assistant, accomplice. Somewhere along lines of that. Alright, my imagination is getting too wild. It is bedtime. It is the time of the eep. It's such a big good day today, Club Cult. Thank you all for everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When someone wakes up, wake up. You know, if I can like sleep for 3.5 hours and do all of this, you know, you can send me pictures of me with dinosaur cars and Mitsubishis, but okay. I'll share those either in Discord or on stream, or honestly, I'll probably post them on Instagram whenever I get them back. And I want to go grab the signs, but I don't want to disturb the Gunther, but I'm gonna have to disturb the Gunther anyway when I say goodnight. And I am numb, and it's quite uncomfortable. Son, here, why don't we plop in bed, and then I'll meet you there in a little bit after everyone has dinner, okay? Gunther, you're not shedding right now or anything. Goodness golly. My pants are now gray. My black leggings are now gray. Oh, oh, oh. There you go, baby boy. Oh my god, holy stiff. snuggle with Zeke. Oh my god, I'm moving like a cowboy robot. Wow. Ow. Not like actual owl, but just general discomfort. Wow. That was impressive. Oh, the signs. What am I doing? Lazy ass. Pippi inspired me to find this today. I don't know where I'm going to put these up. Probably not in the garage. I don't know where, though. If I end up setting, like, a dog grooming space up, then probably in there. And then I jokingly said, is there a Boxer Boulevard? And sure enough, so we have signs for the senior center. Cocker Spaniel Circle and Boxer Boulevard. Boya is tagging in. Oh my goodness. I have good men in my life. I'm a very lucky girl. I'm a very lucky girl. I don't know what the booth was. It was a cute old man that had the booth. So obviously that's why I get suckered into things. I didn't grab one of their cards. I actually should have. I wonder if there's a list of vendors. Probably. I don't know if I would be able to find it or not, but 63rd annual this year. Wow. I often get very self-absorbed, and I don't consider that things have been around longer than me, and indeed they have. One of the little vendors there, but I don't know who. Should I go back tomorrow again and look and find out and get the info and the deets? I'm greedy. I always want more. Show info? Judging vehicle awards. Parking. I don't know how to find the vendors. There was a cute old man, and he had a booth, and it had pet stuff. They had leashes, they had collars, they had the signs, he had a whole assortment of treats. I don't think I'd be under features and guests. One year when I was there, there's a WWE guy this year. Ah, that's what I saw today. It was so cool. Jurassic Park, little Humvee guy. I was actually thinking too, it'd be really neat, and I've never seen a restored version of the little Jeeps that are supposed to go on the track in the original Jurassic Parks. Those would be cool to see. We have the Dukes of Hazzards? What? That must be tomorrow. One year when I went on a Sunday instead of a Saturday, because the perk of going on a Saturday would be the Tuner Galleria. But we went on Sunday, just because we wanted to see cars, me and one of my gal pals. And the guy from Pawn Stars was there, and it was really cool. I was too shy to go get a picture, but he was like finishing up, and everything was empty behind there, so we took a picture with him in the background. I don't know, that's a good question. Kevin Nash? I don't know wrestling. Why wouldn't they have a vendor list? I have no idea then. Sad. Sad. I can provide no follow-up information on this, except that they are cool signs, but they were kind of overpriced. They were $18 each. I feel bad for not looking for, like, Great Dane Chase and, I don't know, or Great Dane Lane. That would actually be cuter, Great Dane Lane. And, like, Pitbull Boulevard, or Pitbull Street. I don't know. But that would have been twice the amount of dollars, and that's a lot of dollars. The Pawn Stars guy, you could listen to him talk for hours. I like their show. I just wish they would keep the drama out of it. Like, I know that the drama is how they fuel the show, but it's annoying. I just want Modern Antiques Roadshow. I have no idea who Kevin Nash is. I know nothing of wrestling. I know nothing. It's empty. Didn't say what day it would be there, though. I didn't get a show guide this year. Or my free plastic bag from Summit Racing. I'm disappointed. I just used my one from last year in the trash can in here. Alright, Club Cult, it is bedtime. It was like a half-assed half a yawn. My body is too tired to even yawn. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for a wonderful night. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your chats. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being your wonderful selves. Thank you for your company. More than anything, thank you for your time. Your time is very valuable. Whether it is for 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 hours, if I don't see you again for 2 years. Our times collide is beautiful, magical, amazing, incredible. And I'm oh so grateful. I'm a very, very terribly lucky girl to have so many wonderful people, men's, humans, kitties. This big group of joy in my life. And thank you so much. Aww, a whole basket of smooches to disperse. Chef's kiss to everyone. You're all perfect. Mwah. If you bebs would like to keep up with me offline, hop into the Disky Boo. Otherwise, we got the fun stuff, the socials, some more fun stuff. Schedule for when I will see you bebs next, and thank you all for being a part of the Stream the Dreams project. I am eternally grateful. We're making awesome leeway on our next TNR goal. I'm very impressed with you all. Thank you. Thank you. Together, we shall change the world, Club Cult. It's lovely to see you too, Num. I hope the rest of the weekend is kind to you. And all of the time in between until I see you next. Thank you for being you. Chef's kiss is usually your goal celebration in the hockey world. I thought the goal celebration is yes at the top of your lungs. Thought that's how it's supposed to be expressed. I don't know. That's how it is for me for Counter-Strike. Ain't no basic bitch. Well, I am. I'm taking my basic bitch ass to bed. Do me one favor until I see you next, Club Cult, and that is remember that you are wonderful, amazing, incredible, spectacular, fantastic, phenomenal, oh so gorgeous, oh so wonderful. All the good things in the world. Take all those compliments, and I am pocketless yet again. Oh my god, Gunther. I'm fluffy. Put those compliments in your back pocket, your side pocket, your cute little hoodie pocket, your adorable little shirt pocket, floating in suspended animation, wherever it needs to go until I see you next, you sweet babos. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your night. Get some good eepy sleepies. And I shall see you all for the next one. The song sounds creepy. There, that's a little better. Magical waves vibes. Not logging off with evil Santa Claus in the background. It's not happening. Good night, Club Cult. Get some good sleeps. Get some good eats. Creak in your chair. Make good choices. All of the things. Get some good eeps. As I just fall asleep right here. Just kidding. I probably could, but we're not going to do that. Thank you all again for a wonderful night, and I shall see you for the next one. Good night, 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 night.